Oh, man. So singing Goodbye Yesterday, it's that declaration, right? It's the reminder of what Jesus started on Palm Sunday almost 2,000 years ago. Goodbye Yesterday is also the name, as Kelly said, of our new series. We're going to take the next 6 weeks and just explore how the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus allows us to say goodbye to our past and hello to a new life in Him. So you might be saying, why don't we start this on Easter then? That's next week, right? Because like any moment in history, you have to understand, we all understand, that there's something that happens. There's always a backstory or events that lead up to a monumental time in history. Everything that Jesus did during His life, during His physical life on earth, pointed to the cross. Every word He spoke, every action He took, paved the way to the crucifixion. Now, we will be celebrating that crucifixion, the resurrection, next week, next Sunday, so make sure you come next week. I want to encourage you, invite somebody, right, to come. Statistics tell us, and we don't have, we can say whatever we want about statistics, but they tell us that people are more receptive when they have a personal invitation to a special service. Like Christmas is always bigger, Easter's always bigger than any time of the year. Who knows? Maybe your invitation to somebody this year will lead them on a new path to say yes to Jesus and goodbye to their yesterdays. Your invitation may be the confirmation that they are looking for to get back to making their relationship with Jesus a priority. Now, if they have a family, especially with young kids, tell them about our great egg hunt that we'll be having after service. And then if they just like food, our hospitality, our breakfast burritos, plus others, off the hook. So just make sure you come. Invite them. Say, hey, I'll take you to lunch afterwards. We'll also be having a water baptism. So, if you've never followed Jesus in water baptism, or maybe you want to kind of rededicate your life through baptism, please talk to Pastor Kelly or myself, and we will put you on the list. And today, after service, we're going to just have a short meeting right here at this table after all the other stuff goes on. And so we're going to be having a meeting. So if you want to know more about it or you want to sign up, please come, or you have signed up, please come to this table after service. So today, Palm Sunday. And it's named because why? Jesus came riding into Jerusalem on a donkey, and the people celebrated Him as the Messiah. So they laid down palm branches, cloaks in front of Him to show they believed that He was going to free them from the oppression that they were experiencing under Rome. They had heard all the prophecies from the Old Testament about this Messiah that was supposed to come. And they believed that Jesus was actually going to be Him. Now, Jesus could have just walked into Jerusalem like He had done every year of His life. However, this time, the mission was different. This time, He was going to make a statement to the crowd and to the religious leaders. Now, to get the story, the Sabbath had just ended. And Sunday morning, which we're celebrating today, is starting the festivities to get ready for the Passover. Now, it's interesting. This was also the same day that each household would go and select a perfect lamb that they were going to sacrifice at Passover. Now, the lamb they took this lamb and it was to live with them. They got to get to know this lamb. They got to get to feed him. And so they got to live with this lamb until the Passover. And here we have a symbol. We have Jesus, the perfect sacrifice, going into the temple, into the what? House of God. And then this and many symbols happened throughout this last week of Jesus' life. And the fulfilling of prophecies come all during this next week. And today we're going to start in Matthew chapter 21. Matthew 21, it says this: as they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, go in the village ahead of you, and once you will find a donkey tied there with her colt. Untie them, bring them to me, and if anyone says anything to you, say, the Lord needs them, and he will send them right away. This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. Say to daughter Zion, see, your king comes to you, gentle and riding on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Now listen, that prophecy, 500 years since Zechariah wrote that prophecy. And again, it shows God had a plan. He has a plan to restore relationship with his greatest creation. The only part of creation that he made in his own image. The only part of creation that he blew life into when he created it. See, God created humans. He created you and I so that we could have a relationship with him. However, sin entered the world, and because God is righteous and holy, he can't be around sin. He cannot associate with sin. So he made a way for us to still be his children, to have a relationship with his people. He started this redemption process with Abraham, and he completed it with Jesus. And then it says this, in Matthew 21 and verse 6, it says, the disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and placed the cloaks on them for Jesus to sit on. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the trees and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed, they shouted, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heavens. And when Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, who is this? The crowds answered, this is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee. So here comes Jesus. Get the picture. He's riding in on a donkey, and the people recognize him and recognize this symbol. Again, there's a backstory here. Most of them had been really to this big celebration. If you know anything about this time, there was this big celebration in Bethany. And why were they celebrating? Well, they were celebrating Lazarus being raised from the dead. That is the type of king I want. One that can raise the dead. And it says that they shouted, Hosanna, which means save us. And it's more in that pleading sense, like, Hosanna, save us. And then they also call him who? The Son of David. Now, do they know that he was born in Bethlehem? No, probably not. But they're calling him the Son of David, which means, that means he's an heir to the throne. And then they quote Psalm 118, which was written by David. It says, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So here you have, there's all this singing, there's all this shouting. They're laying down the cloaks and the palm branches. The excitement, it's through the roof because these people believe that Jesus was going to save them from the Roman rule. And Israel will be a free nation once again, ruling the world, right? Like in the time of King David. Can you think of a better king? I mean, if you have a king that can feed 5,000, heal the sick, the blind, the crippled, calm the storms, and not only raise the dead that just died, but raise the dead of somebody who's been dead for 4 days. With a king like that, how could you ever be conquered again? Hosanna! Save us and build the nation of Israel again in all of its glory. See, the people believed that Jesus was coming in on a donkey. That's the parade that kings come in on. Well, usually it's a war horse, but it's not a donkey. They didn't kind of understand that. But that's the parade after a victorious campaign. And they were doing this new king. See, little did they know that Jesus was coming to Jerusalem to confront religion, not the government of Rome. See, Palm Sunday, it's the confrontation between a dead religion and a living relationship. See, Judaism was broken, and had been broken for quite a while. They followed the traditions more than they followed the law. And the law, which was supposed to be something that what? Revealed their sin against God. Why? So that they would repent. But it only served as corruption from the religious leaders. The priests, they didn't have a heart after God. They had a heart of corruption. And they controlled the people by making them do things that they wouldn't do themselves. And the people, they were exhausted as the religious leaders continued to lay heavy burdens upon them. Because they could. They were the leaders. They could do what they wanted. And they were the ones that were to be, quote unquote, close to God. Now look at, Jesus doesn't avoid what was going on. He had been speaking about this for years, but today's Palm Sunday. It's this confrontation day, and this confrontation will happen until he's put on the cross. So Jesus rides into really what religion had broken. How broken was the religion? They hadn't heard from God for 400 years. Read the Old Testament. And when you read it, you will see that God shows up over and over and over again. And when they ask for a king, yes, there's this roller coaster ride after they asked for the king. But God was never far off. He still had his prophets. He still had his word going to the people. Then, 400 years of silence. We can't even hardly imagine how long 400 years is. 400 years of nothing until an angel comes to Zechariah in the temple and says, hey, you're going to have a son. And his name will be John. See, Zechariah was a priest who was just going about his everyday duties, the things that he was told to do in the temple. And an angel appears and says, this is always good. When an angel appears and doesn't say this, it might not be an angel. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Of course he's afraid. There's not been a word from God for 400 years. Great. I don't know how many greats that is that you have not heard from God. And now he sees an angel. I'm afraid. The great thing is, he couldn't talk. The angel shut his mouth, and he couldn't even talk about what he had just seen and what he had just done, what happened, until after John was born. And by that time, guess what? An angel had also talking to Mary and Joseph. Again with those words, hey, do not be afraid. Right? So now after Jesus rides in Jerusalem, what does he do? What does Jesus do when he rides into Jerusalem? He starts throwing over tables. He drives out the money changers and rebukes them for turning the temple into a den of thieves, is what he called it. Talk about your corruption. Jews, mandatory, had to come from all over the known world to celebrate Passover. They traveled these great distances, and now because they're inside the temple walls during Passover, what normally cost $1 now costs 20. What normally cost $1 any other time of the year now costs $20. Even Disneyland doesn't mark up their prices that much, do they? 20%? I mean, 2,000? Okay. Not only did it cost more, but you had to buy it. Well, if you wanted to be forgiven. So they would go and they would buy a sheep that was deemed acceptable by the priest, and then take it back to their tent or room, wherever they were staying in town, until the Passover meal, when they would have to sacrifice it. Even the priests of Judaism, they had little to do with God. And they had everything to do with rules and regulations that would fill their coffers so they could live a good life. See, Jesus did not ride into Jerusalem to fix religion. He rode in to end it and to restore relationship with God. Jesus didn't come to make sure you're doing all the right things or saying all the right words or making all the right sacrifices. Jesus came for your heart. Jesus came for your heart. Why? Because he knows that if your heart is right, if your heart is following after him, all your words and all your actions will be right. See, religion became about what? Doing what was needed. I sin, here's a dove sacrifice. I sin, here's a sacrifice. Instead of what it was designed to do, to lead people to a relationship with Jesus. So the days after he rides into Jerusalem, he just starts teaching. Now, I'm sure the tables were back up the next day, and they were back selling the sacrifices again. People were still getting ripped off. But Jesus knows that he only has a few days to get his point across. And he says this in Matthew 23. He says, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs, which look beautiful on the outside, but inside are full of the bones of the dead and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside, you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside, you're full of hypocrisy and wickedness." Now, if you go back into Matthew 23, he does this 6 times. Woe to you. And he has these 6 statements that really describe how corrupt and dead the religion was. Religion was broken. And Jesus rides into the center of it, and he declares it dead. See, Jesus wasn't afraid to just ride in to the broken, the corrupt, the heavy burden, mess of a religion that was happening on that Palm Sunday 2,000 years ago. Even though he knew it would lead to his death on the cross. He did it, listen, so that he can ride into the mess of our life. Jesus rides into our mess. Just like he rode into the messed up, broken city, the temple, Jesus rides into our messed up, broken places. Jesus doesn't wait for us to get cleaned of our messes. He doesn't wait for us to shape up or get our act together. No, Jesus rides straight into our shame, straight into our sin, our confusion, straight into our yesterdays. Jesus moves towards the mess, not away from it. Jesus says, let me help you restore your relationship with God. Now, it may feel that he's turning over tables in your life, asking you to stop doing some things that you're doing, stop hanging out with some people that don't build you up or point you towards him. However, everything that he asks you to do is to improve your relationship with him. Listen, he already loves you. He loves you more than you can even imagine. Now, he wants you to love him. Not by doing sacrifices, not by doing, but he wants you to love him with your whole heart. Why? So that then you can love others like he loves you. See, Jesus is not intimidated by your past. He desires to show you how to say goodbye to your past, goodbye to your yesterdays, and hello to a loving relationship with him. We talked about this in the series, Freedom in This House. Jesus comes to replace your performance with purpose. Religion says you need to do more. You need to try harder. You need to clean up your mess. You need to do enough so that you can earn your place in heaven. And Jesus came to replace all that performance by telling us, it's finished. There's nothing more that you need to do. Salvation is a gift, and there's nothing that you can do to earn it. Jesus says what? Follow me. Look at what I'm doing and do the same. And he also says, you just walk with me. Just walk with me. He doesn't call us to perform. He calls us to walk in purpose with God. Grow a relationship with him. Live a life of purpose, not a life of performance. Palm Sunday, it marks the pivot or the shift as Jesus rides into Jerusalem and puts an end to religion, put an end to the whitewashed tomb life. Stop trying to strive to be accepted. Just belong. You are a child of the King. Stop trying to earn salvation or earn God's love. Just receive what he has for you. No longer look to religion, but grow a relationship that will compel you to just walk in purpose. Palm Sunday is Jesus riding into the brokenness of religion and the brokenness of our life and saying, goodbye yesterday, hello relationship. And today we welcome the King who comes not to demand more from us, but to give us new life. See, Palm Sunday started a new direction for humanity. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Because it shows us that relationship with Jesus is more important than religion. Jesus calls us to a relationship with him and with one another. And around here, that's what we like to call disciples making disciples. It is through relationship with one another, relationship with God, that lives are changed. Here at Restoration Church, we are launching a new ministry to help students understand, really at an early age, how important their relationship is. A ministry that will show students that just like in our lives, Jesus is not afraid of their mess. He's not afraid of their doubts. He's not afraid of their fears. In fact, He desires to ride straight into their lives and give them a purpose to live a life that is righteous and holy every day of their lives. What we do around here is we like to launch things. And so this is a whole church launch. That means if you're a part of this church, you're a part of this launch. And we want you to be involved using your gifts and your talents to support the ministry. If you don't know about my background, I was a youth pastor. I was a children's pastor. And so Kelly and I have always had our hand in developing young lives to help them train up in the way they should go. It takes the whole church. It takes the whole church to launch an important ministry like this. That's why we're not just going to say, hey, we're going to start tomorrow. Why? Because we know that we need each member of the church to help get things in place. So once we launch, there's nowhere to go but up. We're sitting at tables, and that's always different than when we do our normal service. But as the students come forward, they're going to lead us through the next portion, and you'll understand why you're at this table, why you're fellowshipping together. And I want to ask you to pray. Pray for God to reveal to you what you might do, what He might have you do. Maybe it's just pray. I don't know what He's going to have you do. Our vision statement, if you don't know it, it's to restore hope in people's lives by leading them to a growing relationship with Jesus. Now, if you know anything about this next generation, they need hope. This world is a crazy place right now. And they need someone to show them the love of Jesus and how it affects their everyday life. They need to know that they are loved and important to the kingdom of God, to Restoration Church. You may not know how you can help. I would say start by praying. Praying for the launch. Praying for God to show people. Praying God to show you. And then just let Him do the rest. Just listen and see what He might say.